Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And again, we're going to talk about what your local legislators, your councils, your various committees are doing to make little regulations that affect you out there.
And these are the people that you've elected or the people that they've appointed to commissions, and the decisions that they make directly affect you, whether you're in Leonard or Oxford, the village of Oxford, or the township of Addison. So here we go.
Yeah. And you know, I'd like to remind you also that everything that we say on this show is 100% true. Maybe not. Okay, if you've heard rumors, they usually begin here. But
Right.
anyway, let's talk about the DDA. They
Okay.
had a special meeting, and it was August 21st. And do you know what the subject was?
No.
Yeah, you need a new director. Yeah.
No, well, we haven't had one for a while. Now, the new director will be a part-time position as opposed to a full-time position. Is that correct?
That's true. And there was allocated funds, I believe, by the village council to the tune of about $25,000 for that purpose for the DDA.
And is it exclusive? Because I heard talk early on that maybe that position would be combined also with the Chamber of Commerce, but I don't think it went that way, did it?
That didn't happen. The chamber has their own director for the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Do you remember who that person is?
I haven't got a clue.
Me neither. No, I did. I envisioned her.
First thing to go. No.
No, it might be him. Well, let me find somebody else to fit this slot here.
I think we're fading out pretty quick here, guys.
Yeah. But anyway, first thing they did is they talked about money because they had bills,
No.
$14,000 worth of bills. But that's okay. Actually, the DDA is doing pretty well at this point.
What's
They're
their
starting
balance?
to recover.
What's their balance
They've
right
got
now?
roughly about 104,000, roughly.
Oh,
you
that-
know. And
Comfortable
of
pocket
course,
change?
they do owe some money, you know,
Yeah.
because they have borrowed in the past because they had no money.
How much do they owe?
I want to say somewhere as close to about 60,000, probably in that area.
So that gives them a net of 40.
Well, yeah, it could, but there might be other bills that I don't know about.
Or they.
Or they don't know about. Yeah. But fortunately enough, they are riding tight reins, you know, on their financials, and they are recovering and doing very well. I think in the next year or so, it'll be much better, and they'll be on the right track.
Right.
So
And
anyway,
hopefully they'll have a better relationship with the village council.
right. Now they did interview. I want to tell you, they did interview quite a few people.
Does,
you know, for
by
this
the way,
job.
does this position have to be approved by the village council?
It does. Anything that is run through the DDA has to be approved by the village council first. Once it, you know,
Kind of like student government.
yeah, kind of a little bit like that. Were you in student government?
No.
How would you know?
If elected, I wouldn't run, and if chosen,
Oh, that's the way it works. Okay. So anyway, right after the DDA meeting, which was 21st, on the 22nd, the village council had a special meeting. For what reason? You know.
to approve.
Yeah, right.
Did they?
Well, they did, and there's more to tell.
Pray tell.
Okay. You're probably wondering, first of all, what does the DDA director do? Come on. You don't
What?
know either, huh?
Well, on a full-time basis, it might entail more.
Oh, it entails quite a bit, actually.
Does it entail, is the job description basically the same, but except that it's part-time now without an assistant?
No, it's kind of scaled down a wee bit.
Okay.
Yeah, they of course handle all the email correspondence, you know, for the DDA department. They also override the websites that are out there, and there are quite a few websites that they have to oversee, or this individual has to oversee.
Oversee as opposed to override.
It's override, yes. There's the downtown Oxford, of course. There's the Scarecrow Festival that's on there. Downtown Oxford Celebrate Lone Ranger, by the way, which is coming up. We'll talk about that.
There has
a little
been
bit
an
later.
issue that, you know, was it the function of the DDA in the past to actually control these activities or seek sponsorships to them?
Well, actually, the answer to that is yes. Both.
You are the consummate politician.
Yes, they're always looking for sponsors, of course, for these projects that they have, and they're getting sponsors from the you know, local businesses and local residents. So that again, you know, is coming into play in terms of what Downtown Development Authority can do. You're going to see concerts in the park, which
Mm-hmm.
have been pre-scheduled at the beginning of the year, and they're all accounted for in terms of monies to pay for.
And those are nice, but really the primary objective of a DDA should really be to make the place attractive for new business to come into.
Yes, and promote,
The existing businesses, right?
yeah. And folks that haven't been to downtown or actually the township of Oxford, I mean, it's a beautiful place to live, I think. Don't you?
Sure,
Okay.
gorgeous,
Yeah.
gorgeous.
But there's a lot of other activities that this individual has to take on, and they're saying too that they want this person to be more of a liaison with the chamber also, and the chamber likewise has encouraged the DDA.
So is it a
involved.
part-time salary or a part-time hourly?
It is an hourly basis. I believe it's 9 something per hour is what it comes down to, with the full amount being $25,000, expended for that individual. So,
And when the gas tank is full, she goes on vacation.
yeah, well, something like that. Or they come back to the trough and they say, "Is there any more?" I don't know. I don't think so, because they do, run a pretty tight rein. There were a number of people that did apply for this job, and after all the smoke cleared, I don't know if there's any gun shooting, but anyway, after everything cleared, they selected a lady called Virginia Shomish.
Shomish, okay.
And her background is such that she has a master's degree in historic preservation from Eastern Michigan University.
Okay.
Has a bachelor's degree as an architecture design.
That seems like a
science.
pretty good fit in
Yes.
a way.
University of Michigan.
Is she a resident of Oxford?
Not yet. She lives in Ypsilanti, but she will be moving here shortly. She's
Oh, good,
looking for a
good.
place. And she definitely will become part of the community, once she gets settled here. Very outgoing young lady, very involved with the college in doing projects.
Is she leaving a job right now that is similar, or?
She has actually worked several jobs. She has been assigned certain jobs with the university on special project work, that kind of thing. And they speak very highly of her. And by the way, you can go to Eastern University and look up her name out there, and it's Virginia Shomish, and it'll give you kind of a history of her experience at the school, college, and so forth around her, and very well thought of.
Well, this will be her first dive into actual community activity.
It is, and as far as from a, what do I say, a political position, I guess, is
Yeah, well,
kind of what it is.
reporting to a political group is always fun.
Yeah. And of course, all the council people, questioned her about her background, where she's from, and all those kind of things, and what her experience entailed. And it came down to the end, and they said, "Oh, by the way, are you sure you want this job?"
Oh.
She said, "Yes, I want it." I said, "Okay."
Well, Virginia, welcome to Oxford.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful town. You're going to love it, just like we do. I'm Elgin,
And I'm Dave Kenny.
and we'll be back in just a minute. Well, welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
Hey, we've just been talking about what the DDA has done, and they've hired a new director, which we're very happy to, announce out there.
Yes, Virginia, there is an Oxford.
Yes, there is. And hopefully you'll fall in love with it, just like we did. Okay. The next subject we're going to talk about is the Oxford Public Library. They did have a meeting,
Right.
and Brian Cloutier, or Cloutier, whichever you want to pronounce it, and he really doesn't care, I don't think.
That's what he says.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, everybody has a preference.
Right. And we had a short discussion on this prior to coming on the air. And anyway, Brian does a great job, I think, in running a meeting, and he's very savvy with the economics.
He runs a very tight meeting, and he runs a very tight ship there. And I think he has a lot of respect throughout the librarian community in Michigan, yeah.
And actually, he travels a lot and goes to different libraries. He was just up to Traverse City, I understand, last week. And he was in Bay City before that. He's familiar with the library there. He goes to Rochester quite often in the area, libraries in this area. And interesting enough, since he's changed things over to electronics, rather than a manual system, for the library system, a lot of these other library systems are looking to him, for feedback and input.
So he's give people those shock bands for overdue books?
Well, he said he has something like a collar.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if you can use this library,
What do you
Oxford
mean?
Library. You're from Brandon.
Hey.
You have to be charged $100 a book or something, don't you?
No. They're part of the Michigan Library Association or the
Oh.
Oakland Library Association. Yeah, I can use.
So you
I can get a
come in?
card there. I can actually get a card there. I have a card there, as a matter of fact.
Well, good. Then
It's an
you're-
old card.
he doesn't
Probably not one of
read
their
very
new
often.
electronic things.
No, actually, this guy reads a lot. Apparently not from the library. Okay, so anyway, the meeting entailed an audit that they had. And what's interesting enough is that, of course, the township does an audit too on the library. And when Brian first came into this area, Mr. Cloutier, he was familiar with working with independent libraries. And they would always have their own financial books and be able to know exactly what's what.
So they didn't report directly to a township or an
No.
upper authority. Okay.
And the problem, as he cited, was that when the information was put into the township books, that they weren't exactly in the same type of order that you look for things.
No.
You'd be familiar with that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
So he said, I'd like to see exactly, what we have here at the library, how much we're spending, how much money we actually deal with here. So he had it set up, I think, when he first got here, to change that over, and he did. And the person who's Rena Emmons, who is the auditor, she said that the state will use the township information, auditing information, figures, but actually the library is more predominant. For example, if for some reason,
Predominant.
yeah, it would be the one thing that they look at for the library to see the status position that they're in terms of financials, rather than the township. Yeah, you could go back to the township too and look at
Well-
it, but it's going to be right there in front of them. And Brian said, well, what would happen, or somebody said, what would happen if let's say the library didn't file a report? Would that be illegal? And they said, no, it wouldn't, because you'd still have township. But they would question you. They say, where's your numbers? We want to see your numbers.
But if you're setting up at the state of Michigan and you have all these libraries reporting to you, they may have their own internal system, but the reporting system that goes to the state darn well better be conformed to what they want to look at.
Oh, and they'll find that real quick.
Yeah.
And then they keep sending you these letters.
Letters?
Yeah, letters.
Dunnage?
Yes. Kind of like that. One of the big problems that Brian was pointing out is that, well, there were a couple of problems. Let's start at the beginning. First of all, when he first came in, he wanted to run this library as a business. He said, there's only one way that you can do this. He said, and because of the economic situation that we were in since 2008.
That's why he had that title, Chief Operating
Yes.
Officer.
Right. He said since 2008, of course, homes have gone into foreclosure, the property tax base has decreased. He said that they had a pretty good general fund, which they still have, but they're using the general fund to pay other expenses. Like they had a $10,000 roof air conditioning system go out that they had
Right.
to replace.
Well, that's why you have a contingency fund.
Right. And so one of the reasons he's saying that we need to look at this tax issue that's coming up on the ballot is, in August, is that we're continuing to dip into the general fund. And you can't do that over a long period of time. So what he's looking at is the ability as a long-running thing to be able to pay the expenses. He's already cut down manpower. He says for the library, cut expenses and so forth as much as over 30% cost.
Right.
So he's done everything he thinks he can do, on his own. Now he's looking for some assistance as far as long-range planning in this thing.
Are we talking millage here?
I think we are, yep. And I'm not saying one way or the other as far as what you should do, but
Is this particular millage on the August or the November ballot?
this will be on the August ballot.
Okay.
The fire department's issue for millage will be coming up on the November ballot. That's for
I
the
see.
township.
Plus you got NOTA coming up too.
Right, NOTA also, and that'll be in August. And,
Plus the school?
yeah. And by the way, I just want to mention here that Terry Stiles, who's a co-anchor for news, and also one of our star reporters here, did an interview with Brian Cloutier on the library system and with the NOTA people talking about their issues, and also the community building that Parks and Recreation are talking about doing.
I believe I heard a guy named Elgin Nichols speak glowingly of that interview.
Yeah, it really gives you detail as far as what's going on, all from a impartial position on this thing. And it can be seen on OCCTV.org by going to our Community Access Special Edition. And you want to more likely get out there and you want to see this on our station, because there's one person I was talking to and they said, well, I was going to just vote no on all the tax issues until I saw the program, and she said, holy smokes, I've changed my mind now.
That's OCCTV.org. Tap on the program item and you'll see everything in reverse date order. You might have to flip a couple of pages before you find what you're looking for, but it's there. And also there is a specific category called Our Community Access that you can get to it more quickly.
You more likely will see the smiling face of Bill Service out there on this thing. So just click on it and just check it out. And I think there's lots of information that I know I wasn't aware of, and apparently other residents aren't aware of.
That's pretty usual.
Yeah. No. Hey, let's talk about other things in just a moment. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we were just talking about some of the things that the library had going, plus a special edition of, what is that program again?
Our Community Access.
Yeah, right. Which can be found on
OCCTV.org. Go to Programs, and you'll find it there in reverse date order, or you can click in the category and find Our Community Access.
Yep, and you will find out all kinds of neat things as what's coming up on the ballot. Also, they talked about the millage for the fire department, which will be coming up in November. Chief Schultz was on, being again interviewed by Terry Stiles, who again did a very good job in providing information for you, the public.
And what's that millage for the fire department for?
Well, there's a couple things. One is a renewal of a millage that they have. I don't recall what the amount of the millage is. It's just a renewal.
Which means it expires after how many years?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's going to expire. I know that much, or it wouldn't be on the ballot, right?
Right.
The second thing, of course, is an additional millage, which is to cover other things like a new truck. Actually, they're not going to purchase a new truck. Chief Schultz said that he can renovate the existing truck for a fraction of the cost of a new one.
Right.
Currently, a new one costs about $400,000 or so, and
Wow.
you can actually renovate the truck he has, which he says isn't too bad a shape, for roughly $100,000. It wouldn't be just one truck, but two trucks, also a water tanker. That would cover that as well. So anyway, Chief's trying to save some money, but that doesn't come up until November. The main thing is make sure you get out there and vote. Just one vote could make a difference on some of these things.
And if you don't vote, it's just like voting
Through default.
through default.
Yeah, through default.
Through default of you.
Through your fault is default. Okay. Let me see. Oh, one of the things that Brian was talking about is the demand for the library actually, rather than declining, you'd think because of computers and everything, is actually increasing. And that's because they do special programs at the library for, job educational purposes, children enlightenment and education as well, startup programs for kids, all kinds of different programming. Matter of fact, you want to learn guitar, they teach guitar over
Really?
there too. Yeah.
Well, you got to give Brian credit for keeping that pot stirred.
Yeah, they do. A lot of activity going on over there. That's at the Oxford Library, Public Library,
Oxford
located on
Public
Pontiac
Library.
Street.
Yep.
He said that one of the main problems that they have, of course, is that state aid is almost non-existent now. Used to be at one time you'd have state aid coming in, and if, let's say, you were having a rough time with the budget, that would compensate somewhat, but now it doesn't help at all.
Is Oxford suffering specifically, or is that something in general with
Every-
all the libraries across Michigan?
It's called the Hadley program and
Hadley or Headley?
Hidley program. Yeah, got
Not
it.
Headley Lamar, like in
Yeah.
Blazing
Straighten that one out,
Saddles.
will you? Okay, you're flying right now. Okay, the Hidley Amendment is what
Right,
has
right.
pretty much annihilated, a lot of these financial positions that some of these.
which basically put a
libraries
limit,
are
the top end limit on the millage that could be allocated.
Yep.
And
So you got to have innovative people, that can come up with different methods, for generating funds. And like Mr. Cloutier said, this has to be run like a business. You can't run it as though it's an endless pit, So he's taken a very
is that
responsible
another
position.
is that another way of saying he can't print money?
He can't print money, but the government can. Right. But we're the government. You can start printing some today.
Yeah, I'd get in trouble for that.
Yeah, you could. So anyway, he's cut salaries and all kinds of things. So he's done everything he can do in terms of the budget situation. They do have a general fund of roughly unrestricted, what they call unrestricted fund balance of 1.3 million, and that's where they're dipping into right now.
What's their? You might not know this, but what's their yearly budget?
Their yearly budget is, 1.4 million comes to mind, but I'm not sure that's it.
Okay. Just wanted to measure that against what they had in
Yeah.
outstanding
But
cash.
it's down now. I think it's like about 90,000 or 900 some thousand. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
But anyway, if you have any questions, contact the library. I'm sure Brian Cloutier would be more than happy, to discuss these issues with you. But he's trying to keep it on an easy run, not only for now, but in the future. And gotta give him a lot of kudos for doing that. Let me see, what else is going on? Oh, yeah, we got a Lone Ranger parade coming up this weekend, don't we?
Woohoo!
Hi-Ho Silver. That's going to be Saturday, August 2nd, and the parade actually begins at what, 11 o'clock, is it? Yep. 11 o'clock. And before that, actually, there's other things going on, events that start at 10 a.m., and
Right.
the whole thing runs through 5 o'clock p.m.
Be
And-
lots of activities, not just the parade, but an awful lot of ongoing activities after the parade too.
There's entertainment going to be held in the Centennial gazebo
Right.
also.
I love gazebos.
Yeah. And one of the guys is, his name is Skillion.
Dennis Skillion.
No.
Or Devin Skillion.
Devin Skillion.
That's
Skilling.
right. Always get it wrong.
Yeah, and he's quite a musician. And by the way, he's on television, serves as a
Channel 4.
news anchor on Channel 4. And quite a musician, music writer, writes books too.
Oh,
And we actually have an interview of him, I think, on the station as well. OCTV?
our community access.
That one. Hey, we're getting a few plugs in on this one today, aren't we?
9:30 to 5:30.
9:30 to 5:30.
So get out your mask and your white hat and be there.
Hi-Yo Silver.
That's right.
Right? Okay, what's coming up in the future here?
Well, there's not a lot, but on 8/4 we have the Addison Township Parks Committee, and that's at 7:30, and at 7 o'clock that same day, the Village of Oxford Zoning Board of Appeals. And on 8/5 at 7 o'clock, the Village of Oxford Planning Commission. And on 8/6, the Oxford Township Planning Commission Economic Development Subcommittee. But check, that's at 6:30, but check on that one because sometimes they cancel it.
Well, that economic development one is kind of an interesting group. I mean, their whole objective is to bring new business into this area.
Right, and to some extent they overlap or tie into the Village of Oxford Downtown Development Authority.
Right. Well, I know one of the meetings they had, I said, hey, what about Chuck E. Cheese? We got kids running all over the place here. You could have a Chuck E. Cheese here. I think they would do pretty well. Jack Curtis, he says, yeah, that's a good idea. He said, my grandkids, they like Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese is a big footprint, isn't it?
Well, it would be a big footprint here. We had them here. But they need to look at companies like that, and they do. And there's other firms that actually they've had correspondence with. So it's a great thing. I think it's
Are there
advancement of our community.
are there any firms like on the hotspot right now to come in, or?
Nothing else on the hotspot except you. I'm Elgin Eccles. This is
Hey.
Minutes by Minute.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
We'll catch you next time.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That moment?
It was a moment that changed my life. I'd been training with my team for months, and now we had been called up for the first time. The real deal. Wildfires were getting dangerously close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is to my community.
See how the Guard can be an important part of your life at NationalGuard.com.
I remember the moment clearly.
I'll never forget that moment.
As long as I live.
I realized at that moment, when we first saw the damage, these people really needed us. And I was going to make a difference, right here in my community. Together with local responders, we cleared trees and collapsed walls. We had to get to the family trapped beneath. As a citizen soldier, I made a difference.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life. Somebody from my hometown.
See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the Village of Leonard.